Hi, thank you so much. And I'm so thrilled to have you joining. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your nonprofit journey? What led you into this work and what keeps you inspired today?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, I'm Lou Adducci. I am a fundraising consultant specializing in peer-to-peer fundraising. I also have incredible experience working in the live stream creator and gaming space, which is where my nonprofit fundraising world started or journey started. Before that, though, I had almost 15 years in nonprofit arts. I thought I was going to be an actor on the stage, but I became an actor of another sort. And I just got to a certain point where I found I wanted to do good. I wanted to help people. I was really drawn to this idea of being a good role model for, at the time, my 2-year-old son. I wanted to be able to look back and say, you can do good and you can take things that you love and turn them into something really exciting. And at the time, I was like, how do I take, as a new parent, it's like, I want to still want to leverage my favorite hobby, which was gaming. And I wanted to help people with that. So I quickly found out about this program through Children's Miracle Network Hospitals called Extra Life, and I became a fundraiser. So I created a campaign. I was like, I get to play games and raise money and help my local children's hospital. And I got very involved in this program, so much so that eventually they were like, do you want to work for us? And it was absolutely a dream come true. And that was close to like 8 or 9 years ago. And that's really when the journey for nonprofit fundraising started. What I found was I fell in love with building communities that cared about causes that mattered to me and mattered to the communities that wanted to fundraise for them. So that's the whirlwind tour. I usually get really long-winded about that. So I'm really impressed with myself right now, like how I truncated that journey into like less than 5 minutes. So everyone who's listening, you're welcome for that.
I love that. The peer to peer is near and dear to my heart as well. That's where I came in my fundraising background as well. And I think that gamification component that you're sharing is really interesting. And I think there's such a untapped, but or like potential there. I know that it's been growing over the last few years, but there's still so much opportunity in that space, especially with the younger generation. So I think that's really cool. And I could see why that would light you up, especially like supporting a children's hospital and with a young child at home. That's amazing. That's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something you touched on was interesting is, and something we talk about as fundraising professionals. It's been a big topic, and I even had opportunity to speak about it earlier this year. It's like, well, how am I tapping into Gen Z? What are millennials doing, right? And one of the ways that that you engage with them is not through what we're used to in nonprofits is Gen X and boomers. They tend to like more traditional fundraising. A lot of us are very familiar with the gala, with the golf tournament, with the walk run, right? Those sorts of things we're very familiar with that, but it doesn't necessarily speak to a generation that has really adopted the screen as a way to share their ideas, to share their voice, and to engage. And so whether it's playing a game, live stream, creating content on YouTube,
Mhm.
TikTok, that is where you have the potential, exactly, kind of at this point, probably just scratching the surface of what engaging content to look like. And many of us have probably heard this phrase like influencer marketing, or you need to have an influencer manager,
Yeah.
because the concept of celebrity has gone down to almost a micro level with a lot of these younger generations. So I think that there's a lot of potential there. And that's where I get excited. I get excited working with folks who definitely talk about the world in a different way than maybe I would or my parents would. So yeah.
I love that. And I agree. I think the younger generation has like some really they're going to bring a different perspective that is needed into this current reality. And I'm really excited to see what they bring. You touched on this, and I think this is what's going to feed into your next question, but I'd love to hear it. What part of the work lights you up the most? So, like a story, a project, an impact moment that reminds you you do what you do.
A word that's going around a lot is in the work that I do is connector. Like I'm a connector. I'm a community person first. I love learning about people who are in a community, whether it's a fundraising community or a gaming community or whatever. And I love taking those people and connecting them with other people in the community and creating even more amazing connections and growth and seeing people get excited. But I think that connection point, helping people find a way to express themselves through doing good. And so that's always my favorite part, whether I'm connecting someone who then goes on to raise $100, or I connect them to another brand that all of a sudden they have a brand sponsor and then they're raising thousands of dollars. Those are the moments that, like you said, light me up. They keep me going. They allow me to see the potential in the work of connecting and creating community. Like a specific example is through years of doing this, there's a group that has followed me through my different career paths. It feels good because you create connections, but they do this event. It's called they're Stumped Gamers. Every Christmas, they do this thing called Stumped Miss. And it's like 12 days of this group of creators who they just celebrate and they fundraise for a cause. They've raised funds for World Central Kitchen and with Doctors Without Borders, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That connection and these people being like my fundraising besties has been that kind of connection with people who want to spend so much of their time doing good. Doing something that's actually a lot of fun and kind of strange and funny is probably one of the things that motivates me. You're always looking for that next amazing group of friends who want to go on this journey to create really cool stuff together in the process, like significantly help people. So I think that probably answers the question.
It does. Totally does. I love it too. It's one of those things when you get to find cool ways that you enjoy, like value alignment, but also bringing joy and leaving the world off a little bit better of a place, doing fun things that you enjoy doing while getting to connect with people. That sounds like the dream to me. So kudos to you for finding that in your work life. So, what's one challenge or shift you're currently navigating in your organization or within the sector? How are you approaching it, and what kind of support would help?
No, that's a good question. I think that economic downturn it's real. And I think that the peer-to-peer sector, and I'm sure other sectors and major gifts and what have you, it's a real thing. But I think the hard part is continuing the story that we tell as an organization to allow, your contributors, your supporters to keep going, to keep pushing forward, that this too will pass, that kind of mentality. And it's hard because when you're feeling the things that your community is feeling on a very personal level, whether it's funding being restricted or funding being taken away or just the general state of the world, it's tough. And the thing that helps is the thing I love to do the most is creating those connection points and creating moments of community to have these conversations candidly and to find that spirit of perseverance to move forward. So I feel like that has been over the last 5 years. It's been a wave. It's been tumultuous, to be honest, of having folks who you ask to spend their time to raise funds. Oftentimes they are full-time creators, live stream or create content for a living. And when you ask them to take a break from their revenue, the personal revenue stream, to give money to your organization, it's a big ask. So you have to really be thoughtful and be grateful for that relationship and find ways to connect them back to your cause that makes a difference. And so that can look like a couple of things. I think that if you have an opportunity to bring them into your organization and show them what you actually do, a lot of organizations have that capability. If you work at a children's hospital, often there's opportunity to bring those folks in to show them the work that's done, right? If you're an international organization, it's more difficult. But if you can bring the people who work for your organization in for a live stream interview or a recorded interview, to have that connection point to really drive home the importance of the work. And so I think that's how you meet a lot of these challenges, is through community and connection. I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's something really important. You said so many great things there, but really about connecting with your relationships and building those authentic relationships and trying
Right.
to find ways that really align with what they are excited about or what their values or passions are, and like understanding what gets them excited, but also understanding that we all need community. And
Right.
even if you are a micro or macro influencer, they also need community, and building on those opportunities to really bring them closer to your nonprofit or help tell that story, I think is really crucial. So I love the suggestions and the examples that you shared there. I think those are really meaningful and a great way to really tie it back to the organization. So, how have conversations or connections through the Nonprofit Hive helped shape your work or your perspective?
I've been enjoying the Hive for a while now, and it's been a fantastic network of people that I can go back and reach and pick people's brains about, and also say, hey, is this something you would be interested in? There's like a job opportunity pipeline, as well as finding those peers in the space who are probably more knowledgeable about the thing that that you may not have that knowledge. So really, it's been educational, and the side conversations that have come from the, I like to call it the speed dating sessions that you have with the Hive, where you really get to know somebody really quickly, have been really beneficial. And every person I've met in my space, I tell them that you will learn more about how charitable organizations work outside. I'm US based, so outside of the States. It will give you an insight into your work on a level that may be frustrating at some point as to why you need to do the work, but also knowing that people like us exist everywhere. There are people who want to, who see that there's something that could be better, and they're spending their life and their time and their effort doing it. It's one of the best communities that I've been a part of. And I've been a part of a lot of communities over the years, and highly would recommend it. And definitely don't hesitate to tap into those people that you've met. There's people who are now, I've talked to so many people through the Hive that, but I've had enough interaction with them. I'm like, I don't remember where we met. And then I go back, I'm like, oh, we had a Hive interview, sometime last year. And I'm like, and we've connected and we've supported each other throughout. And so that's the power. It's a cool power of community. And I think that the work that's been done with the Hive is kind of speaks volumes to that power.
That's awesome. I think there's something really beautiful about being able to connect with individuals. Like you meet them for 30 minutes. And I agree. I've been able to circle back and be like, oh, we had this great
Yeah.
conversation about X and I didn't know about it. And they just opened this whole new world of the fundraising sector to me that I had no experience in. And then I've been able to like circle back to those individuals when something's come up and been like, hey, do you remember? And then we dive into further conversations. And I think it's just such a lovely way to build your network. I also find that in smaller locations, oftentimes fundraisers feel like they're in competition with one another
Yeah.
or with organizations. So this also creates an opportunity to meet people who are very passionate about the work, but you don't feel like you're necessarily like stepping on toes, or you can be a little more candid because you are just talking about your personal experience. And I've also met some really great people that I have been able to work with after or just build friendships. So I appreciate those thoughts. So, what's one insight, resource, or mindset that's helped you recently and might help others in the community too? So, something you could learn from or be inspired by.
Man, I think that's related to what we were just talking about community, is find a place where you can speak candidly about your frustrations, your fears, and find a place where you can ask for help. And you can do that through community, whether it's a one off conversation or with a Slack or Discord chat, whatever that looks like for you. Finding like minded people who are probably within your same sector, within our sector, find those people and commiserate because it does get hard and it can get lonely to do this work. Having those voices close to you and connecting with those people allows you to see that you can also be that for other people, right? You show up for other people and people show up for you. I think that, I guess, knowing that you're not alone and that there are networks of creative professionals who are willing to help and they're willing to support the work that you need to get done, or just willing to delay. You know what? Yeah, my CEO is also driving me crazy this week, or my donors are not listening. They don't read the emails, right? We need to talk about those things.
Yeah.
We need to be able to vent about it as well as celebrate the wins. Is like those are just as important to have a space to connect with people. So find a community, whether it's the Hive or local community or whatever that looks like, find a place to connect with people, and that will make a difference.
Yeah, that's huge. I think like within the nonprofit sector too, there's so many people that don't really like who aren't in the sector who don't really understand the nuances of working in the sector like this. So I agree. I think it's really being able to have honest conversations, or if you're in a small shop and you're the sole fundraiser, like being able to bounce ideas off other people and just brainstorming. I think sometimes we get so stuck in the work that like we forget to step back and actually breathe and communicate.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that's what I found a lot of value in is like having the experience of working in with larger organizations over the span of my career is being able to meet that person who is that one shop person that they have this nonprofit because it truly affects them or has affected someone in their community, to take the time to be like, here's how I can help you and be that connection point. That's something that I've done through the Hive, is being able to say, yeah, absolutely, I'll write that blog and that, in your newsletter, or absolutely I'll go on a live stream and we'll talk about what it means to be a fundraiser or nonprofit professional in the space. Making space for others in your space is crucial to growing and creating sustainable spaces for community is important. So yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. This isn't really part of the normal questions, but I'm going to ask there for anybody who's trying to get into that sphere. I know it can be a daunting task. I've worked at hospital foundations and we had someone start gamification events. And I'm like, you don't know the community, you don't know how to enter in. It's such a big undertaking. So I'd love like if you had any suggestions or tips on like how to get started in that space or resources that you would recommend on for folks who are looking to dive in there.
Yeah, yeah. So you're saying specifically, like, how do you get into live stream gaming or any space, really, right? That's not
Yeah, because
comfort
I think
level.
there's a lot of organizations looking to diversify funding and just looking at different
Yeah,
opportunities and angles. So I think this could be one of those
yeah.
areas.
It's one of my favorite things to because you get surprised about who's the person in your organization. So we'll just use gaming, and gaming is what I know, so I can speak to that very thoughtfully. But I think it's true with almost any sort of like passion focused group like gamers. So recently I was just at TwitchCon with the
Cool.
organization I'm working with, and came across a colleague on LinkedIn who they weren't a colleague yet, but quickly became a colleague who said, hey, I'm with this organization. We're just creating this space and we're showing up to TwitchCon. And she was fearless. She was also a gamer. And so we stood and we talked about games forever. But she went into the space and had that level of authenticity because she was in the space and also she's very familiar with the industry. So I would challenge any organization who has people who work for them, which is most organizations, ask them about who has interest in cycling, who has interest in gaming, who has interest in tabletop games, like whatever those passion groups, whatever you've identified as the next big thing, then talk to your staff first and say, how would you like to go explore this for a minute? And so being willing to open up the pocketbook a little bit to explore and to see if it's something that makes sense, that's good. The other thing is, I'll say about any sort of community fundraising or community building is that takes time. You're going to quickly have someone say, what was the return on investment for that? How much time was involved in that? How much did you spend? And of course, those things are all very important, but to know that this is it's a long game. It's a long time investment that has that you can reap true benefits from, because when you create a group of people who are passionate about your organization because they've had face time with you in the organization, they show up in your spaces authentically, it becomes something really special. We always like to dream of that movement that raises a bunch of money and really advocates for us. That's what you're creating. You're investing in the future. And I've used this analogy before. I don't know if I've used it on a Hive chat or anything, but the idea of community building and peer-to-peer fundraising often is like planting trees in an orchard. Like, first of all, that tree at the onset needs a lot of attention. And if you have more than one, you got to pay attention to a lot of them. But eventually, after you water, grow, and you get the trees in a healthy space, they often network themselves. They take care of themselves. They support themselves. It becomes an orchard or a forest or whatever analogy makes the most sense to you. Is we're there at the onset, but they quickly become the foundation of the work that we need to get done.
That's awesome. I think there's something really beautiful too about leaning in or asking your staff the questions because you
Yeah.
get to know them a little more.
Yes.
You get to understand, like, it's just building a nice culture and like being able to really celebrate your staff outside of their work and bring their joys to work. And I think you just have people who would be authentically showing up in the space and genuinely being excited about that. I love those
Right.
suggestions.
Right. Yeah. Don't be afraid to, you said, grow your internal culture through that kind of engagement. That's, again, another kind of community building there that
It is.
you don't even
It's
know that you're doing, but you're creating positive environments for people to grow.
I love it. Thank you for those suggestions and insights. It's been such a pleasure, Lou.